Celebrities do not guarantee sales of brand. As a brand, you need to understand what is your objective. Is it sales or is it publicity? If your objective is publicity, you can go the route of celebrities so that people really know about your brand and hear about your brand. But if you want to go the route of sales, you might not need to depend on celebrities, because at the end of the day, they will be making their big bucks. They will just give you that feel good factor.
Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Glory Rex. I love to create amazing content here on YouTube. If you are seeing my face for the first time, welcome to my channel. I have loads of videos for you. Check out my handwork series, cooking tutorials, tips and tricks, random ideas, everything juicy just for you guys. So kindly subscribe to my channel, turn on the post notification bell so when I post a video you'll definitely be notified, and don't forget to give my video a thumbs up. So to my returning subscribers, I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you for always coming back to support me. You guys are the realest MVP. So guys, on this episode of Handwork series, my guest is a professional public relations personnel currently working in a media house, and this guy has 6 years experience of PR. I'm sure you want to learn. In this episode, we'll be talking about in-depth things you need to know about public relations and crisis management. So guys, keep watching this video till the end. Give me a big thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you guys after the intro.
My name is NKUME. I'm a PR practitioner with about 6 years experience.
What is PR?
PR is actually public relations, and it's kind of like a very broad field because it deals a lot with communication, perception. Like they say, perception is reality. So, in a nutshell, like a mentor taught me, PR has to do with leveraging the media to elicit or garner goodwill for a brand. There are various media platforms. So, is it your online platform? Is it the traditional platforms? That's your traditional print, electronic TV and radio. So, is it how do you use these platforms to actually position your brand or give get goodwill within the public for a brand? So that's in a nutshell what PR does. So you have a Mercedes brand. Mercedes is about luxury. If you're going to be selling Mercedes brand, yes, telling people how the brand is, how it's for luxury people, how it's the brand is the aesthetics inside the brand is. You just sell those key points, and that's what PR does, selling the positives of a brand. Yeah, so just like Volvo as well. If the Volvo in terms of fuel consumption is very good, what you'll be selling out there is the fact that the Volvo brand has a very good consumption, fuel consumption, and that is what people would actually go for. The Toyota brand, a lot of people, word of mouth, have it that, when it comes to fuel consumption, when it comes to understanding Nigerian roads, it's something that people see, and from perception to even in their communication, they put it out there that they are. I think that's a place that had the Oishkana, good thinking, good product. So they position themselves as a good product and in the Nigerian market, and over the years, people have told that line and fallen in love with the brand in terms of that. So that's what, in a nutshell, what PR does: selling the positives of a particular brand organization.
So why do brands need PR?
So brands actually need PR because, like we say, perception is reality. If you are perceived in a kind of way, that is what people would assume you are. So if you don't tell your story, if you don't more or less tell your story, define who you are and define your story out there, people will begin to create stories around you, and sometimes it might be detrimental to the brand because if they are telling the wrong story about you, it's going to be a tough sell for you to begin to like put out your own narratives. So it is very important for all brands to tell their stories.
What should people understand about PR?
Okay, so when it comes to PR is quite broad. So a lot of people who go into business, or even as individuals, PR is something that you need to understand. Like I said initially, perception is reality. Um, every brand needs to understand that to an extent you need some sort of PR, and you need to understand what PR does and its advantages for your brand. So you go into business, you go into business, you need to make sales. You need to make sales. You need to, when you understand what PR does, PR helps you to, it helps you give you, for example, it gives you an idea of what kind of strategies you want to use in terms of going to the market. Um, PR helps with publicity. So once it helps with publicity, it now depends on how good or what value your brand is bringing to the market. So I'm going to use let me just use like an just an anonymous scenario. Brand X comes into the market. Brand X comes to the market and is selling a product that is worth people's while. But because you are doing more or less, you just come into the market, you don't understand what PR does, you're just trying to make sales. You might get some sort of volume in terms of sales. But if brand X understand that PR requires publicity, and you need to like you need to understand your various communication platforms, channels, and say, oh, because of my brand, who are my target audience? How do I sell this brand? And which of the platforms will connect more with my target audience? Understanding, and that is where PR is very strategic. PR has to do a lot with a lot of strategy thinking. So, if you want to sell, for example, a bone straight hair, it won't be advisable to put it on like a print publication, because that's not your target audience. Your target audience are people who want to be seen, to get on like your online, for example, your Instagram, even your television as well, because people, such a product requires more of visuals. People need to be seen, and in as much as a lot of your target audience is on Instagram, some will likely be on TV as well. So PR helps you that strategy bit. It helps you, whatever products or brand you're bringing out, it helps you focus on how to support its sales or introduction into the market. So that is what a lot of people need to understand about PR. So PR is not just media relations. It's not just media relations, because there's a lot around PR. So there's the media relations bit, there's the bit of media relations, public relations, government relations. It's actually a very broad field. There's the marketing communications arms as well of PR. So PR is quite broad, and this is something that once you have an inkling and understanding of the whole bowl of what PR offers, it would help you in terms of, for example, are you bringing a product into the market? Do you want to launch a major campaign into the market? PR, once you have an inkling understanding about PR, it helps with your strategy and ideas in terms of go to market, um, um, strategy in terms of crisis management, crisis communications. Because at the end of the day, as a brand begins to grow, or as a product begins to grow into a brand or organizations, you need to understand that to an extent you need PR you need crisis management plans in place. You need because there's no brand that is at some point you need to ensure that you have some sort of structures when such in event of possibly a crisis or thereabouts.
You talked about crisis management. So tell us more about it.
So crisis management. Well, before we move into crisis management, there's actually the crisis communication or crisis management plan that every organization should have. It's more or less a document or a guide that would be activated or that should be activated at any point of a crisis. Um, every major organization has it. Airlines do have it. The thing is that there's no brand that is not prone to crisis. So the crisis could be internal or external. So one thing that brands need to understand is that um, when you need to understand who are your stakeholders. There are those that are important. There are those that are critical stakeholders. So when you're coming up with that document, you need to begin to look from internal. Who are your stakeholders internal? From the chairman from the board of directors to employees to the board of directors, the employees, the HR person, the managing director. So all that are your internal stakeholders. Then when you're looking at external stakeholders, you're looking at, for example, who are your key players within your sector? Who are your the government as well? The key sectors, the key players to your sectors. Who are your suppliers? Because your suppliers too are part of your stakeholders as well. So you need to understand every key stakeholder, internal, external, within the field you operate, and who are directly impacted by your brand, directly or indirectly impacted by your brand. When you understand all this, it helps you begin to streamline what kind of focus do you put with them. But again, you need to understand what are the likely threats to your brand. So you have, for example, if you're in the hospitality industry, or let me just use an hotel. If you're in the hospitality industry and you have like an hotel operating in the country, what are the likely threats? Food poisoning, theft, where you have guests come lodging, so possible theft, um, food poisoning, and a
Mother.
few other minor crises or possibly bad reviews, bad customer experience, which could become like a bad publicity. Which when the customer goes out to give reviews on your brand, so these are the kind of likelihood scenarios. So when you understand all this, it now begins to help you in terms of the documents, what will be happening at each point. When this crisis happens, how do you activate it? What kind of communication goes out at that point in time? Who should be speaking? You can't have everyone and anyone speaking at that point in time. Are you going to be having a spokesperson? Who are the team that would form the crisis management team? Because when there's a crisis, you need to form a team. So the team must include, for example, the HR person has to be in that team. The HR person might not be speaking at every point, but might be speaking in terms of internal, through maybe internal memos and a bit of it. You should have the MD or the chief operating officer as part of the people in that team. The legal advisor should also be a part in that team. So when you have all this in place as a brand organization, it helps prepare you. So whenever there's a crisis, you already know, oh, I have this document in place, let's activate it. And we begin to follow the process up until the crisis is either managed or throughout the crisis period. So crisis communication is a very important part in PR as well, because it's something that shows a level of preparedness and a level of understanding of the field by brands within certain fields.
the baby steps into becoming a PR?
Okay, for a lot of people, the foundational steps into practicing PR is through first mass communications in the higher institution. Studying mass communication is more or less like a background step of practicing PR, because first anyone who is going to study PR you have to know how to write. You need to be good at writing. You need to also learn. You need to read a lot, because reading a lot would help in terms of how you write and in terms of the kind of works or releases you put out. It will translate to it. So studying marketing as well is also a foundational step. Going to the School of Journalism, there's the Institute of Journalism where people go through. I went to a firm that is into marketing communications, and over the past 3 to 4 years, I was learning the ropes on PR. So the thing about PR, you need to be able to learn. You need to be patient in learning.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the mode of operation. I think that's going to be the last question. The mode of operation as a public relations personnel.
Oh. For a public relations person, a PR person, you need to be able to you need to always be in the news, know what's happening, because most times your information's actually gotten out there in the news and the public. So policy changes, government declarations, consumer attitudes, all these are things that more or less define or shape your perception about things, and it helps in terms of PR. So in the morning, for myself, it's something I try to do. I go through the news. A lot of people assume that they can just wake up and study PR. Even it's something I see or I hear amongst journalists today, that it's not PR, I can do it. But they fail to understand that PR requires a lot of strategy. It is that strategy that shapes your thought process in terms of how you execute campaigns, how you write. So it's a lot. It's not just, oh yeah, I write a press release, I put it in the paper, and that's it. What kind of brands are in the radio? What are they putting out there? And go online, understand the audience online. It was when I said this bit, I now started to understand that sometimes, which is my own opinion, it's until recent, over the years, there's been a trend of, for example, people relying on the celebrities to drive campaigns, sales, and a bit of it, assuming that a 1 million or 2 million, 3 million followers would translate to people changing their people's people's drive, or influencing people's drive in terms of purchase of brands or brand love and a bit of it. But when I started going through and observing what's happening online and also offline, I noticed at first the Nigerian market is very peculiar. We are not the people that are driven fully by what we see. We need that, like I would say, Jehovah's Witness kind of engagement. So PR would market, sell a product, but we still need that human one-on-one communication, one-on-one interaction, consumer engagement to sell the product, and so that people can actually begin to purchase or go for it. The other thing I noticed was that, which is going back to what I was initially talking about, the numbers. Having celebrities try to push or stand as face of a brand does not translate to sales. Micro influencers in recent years have shown that they are more effective than celebrities. They've shown that they are much more believable and much more effective. they are the ones that more or less control conversations or drive conversations around what is happening in the country. And that is, all this was not taught to me in school or learnt during my internship days. It's something that because I started observing, part of what I've learned, I started trying to practice it. It's something I witness, and then I'm able to like, oh, okay, and it's what is happening. You look at the EndSARS campaign that happened, and you look at who were the key players around it. You see that there's a trend that over the years we've always been on the beat of celebrity influencer, but now we've started seeing that there's this new trend, and which is now taking shape and playing out. Celebrities do not guarantee sales of brand. As a brand, you need to understand what is your objective. Is it sales or is it publicity? If your objective is publicity, you can go the route of celebrities so that people really know about your brand and hear about your brand. But if you want to go the route of sales, you might not need to depend on the celebrities, because at the end of the day, they will be making their big bucks. They will just give you that feel good factor, but they are not the ones that will be able to push for sales. There are just very few celebrities that are now brands. So because they are brands, they influence any brand that they partner with. Few of them, like for example, a whiskey. That's why you have a whiskey partner with a brand, and within a very short while, when they announced this partnership, the brand came out to say they had skyrockets in sales. That's because he's a brand, which is influencing another brand. So, for someone who's going to PR, you need to know that every day is a learning process for you. You need to be able to open your mind to learning from everywhere. So, is it the newspapers? Is it the TV? Is it the radio? You need to be able to listen and pick up information across board, because at the end of the day, the informations you need and that would help you in whatever engagements you do are on these platforms. It's just a matter of you opening your mind to seeing that, oh, what can I learn from any of these engagements or activities. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So please, your social media handles.
NKUME on Facebook, Heroy7 on Twitter, Heroy7 on Instagram. You're welcome.
When we invite you, come next time, Abby.
Definitely.
So guys, that's it for this episode of Handwork series. I'm sure you guys learned a lot because I did myself. So please leave me a comment in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on your post notification bell, so when I post a video, you definitely be notified. I still remain my humble self, Glory Rex. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.